What's the score? 17-12? What's the score?
So we're ending this month's show with a new feature, What's the Score? And here it's where we're discussing our favourite film scores and soundtracks. And we're going to start off with James Hawes' Scorner. James Hawes' Scorner, whatever that is.
James Haw, you whore.
Yeah, James Haw, you're doing your score, you whore. So,
you scorny whore.
so let me start. I'll start that bit again. So here we're discussing our favourite film scores and soundtracks, and we're going to start with James Horner's score. There we go for Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. So over to you, Ben. Why don't you kick this one off, mate?
Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan opened in 1982 and proved to be a huge success, far beyond what the studio was expecting. Although Star Trek: The Motion Picture was a hit, the studio felt it didn't perform as well as expected. And after an autopsy, the studio removed the source of their problems and general pain in the ass, Gene Roddenberry, and installed Harve Bennett as producer. Bennett was tasked with making Star Trek II on a much smaller budget, and it can be argued that Bennett really saved this series with some bold choices. He chose to reuse models left over from the motion picture. He used a television crew to shoot the movie. For example, the Bridge of the Enterprise is redesigned. I'd never get this. The Bridge of the after the whole Enterprise has gone through a refit in Star Trek: The Motion Picture, so even Kirk doesn't know its functions. And yet in Star Trek 2, they changed it again. It's like a woman's done. A woman's painted it and decided. I love the white thing. I love it, but I really like grey. I really like grey and beige. Can we try grey and beige? Oh God, we just fucking painted it. So they've rechanged that with that massive refit. They've changed the Bridge of the Enterprise. But what they also did was they redressed the Bridge of the Enterprise for the Reliant. So you get two for the price of one, basically. The uniforms for the first film are dropped, so we get a more naval look, and they're not those sort of skin-tight all-in-ones that allowed Shatner to breathe now. He can exhale and start he'd have to hold his belly in. That's just quite funny. Now then, due to budgetary restraints, Jerry Goldsmith's phenomenal score for the motion picture wasn't used. Now, it's brave because it's a fantastic score, and you could argue that it does actually go against the content of the film, because Goldsmith's score is very dynamic and exciting, and the film is quite ponderous and slow. Now, I'm not slagging off Star Trek: The Motion Picture. I really like it, but I really like the score as well, and I'd have to say that it's as if Goldsmith didn't see the same film. It's as if they say, look, we're going to make a big screen version of Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Jerry, go into the music. Right, I've done this. Oh, fuck. The opening score is just fantastic. It's unbelievably dynamic, the motion picture. It's fucking great. It's the best thing about it. But I think, sadly, the opening score is used only once, really, and it's used for the opening of the movie, and it's a fantastic fanfare. But I just don't think it suited it. So instead, Harve Bennett and director Meyer approached a young composer called James Horner. Now, Horner was 28 when he composed the score. That's phenomenal, that. To be 28. What were we doing when we were 28? I wasn't scoring for Star Trek 2. Do you know why? Because I wasn't asked. That's why.
They should have asked you, to be honest.
They should have asked you. I've got a harmonica and a guitar. I could have
That would have been awesome.
I mean, you've heard some of my work. I've just scored. I scored Batman Forever earlier on, and that was like on the hoof. So I don't know. They're missed out. So he was 28, and he'd come to prominence in the 70s with scores for TV and moved into movies with Humanoids of the Deep and Wolfen, which is quite a good score. I actually forgot he'd done that. Now his brief was simple: don't use any of Goldsmith's score and give us a swashbuckling, seafaring piece of music. So easy then.
Yeah,
so without doubt, this is one of my favourite movie scores, right from the opening bars. It absolutely delivers in all areas, and it is just fucking brilliant. Now, I know he'd been sending tapes around, James Horner, and Harve Bennett had some of the scores. He'd using like electronic sounds and that. And I don't know whether it was a bit of penny pinching. We'll just go for an unknown. But I have to defend. I think Harve Bennett does an unbelievably brilliant job with Star Trek 2. I don't want to go too much into the production because we're going to talk about the music. But I think in all areas, it works. The script is fantastic. The storyline is phenomenal. And considering Harve Bennett had never even seen a Star Trek movie before he took over the producing role, that probably helps. He watched all the series and decided, I'm going to bring back a character. Which one shall I bring back? And he chose Khan. And even went as far as, I didn't know this, they went as far as starting production without even asking Ricardo Montalban if he wanted to come back.
No way.
They said, do you reckon we should ask him? Yeah, maybe it'd be a good idea, yeah. And the family was like, really receptive. And he said, Ricardo Montalban loved it. And I said, I couldn't believe how in shape he was for his age. But I said, the chest thing, his chest to get to like a lot of griefs, and it was obviously a fake chest. Apparently it wasn't. That was him. He did work out, and it's like, oh, fucking hell. But
Jesus.
Ricardo Montalban said his biggest disappointment was he never got any screen time with Shatner. And that all of his things is, he was talking to a continuity lady who was on set, and he addressed her, and he said it was a bit of a downer, but he enjoyed it. You could tell he enjoyed it because it's such a great fucking film. And it's a great film because one of the main aspects is it's got a great fucking score. I absolutely love it. So I'm going to choose, I'm not going to dissect the whole soundtrack because it'd be boring. So I'm going to choose a couple of my favourite tracks from it. And I'm going to start with the main title, which I think just sets up a fantastic film because it opens up with really strange, ethereal noises. And then you get a slight motif from the Star Trek TV show, which is heard very slowly. And then it's just engulfed by a swelling orchestra of strings and horns. And the score it changes very quickly into this lush fanfare. And it just screams adventure. It screams adventure film. It's just fantastic. Now, I fell in love with that from the moment I heard it when I was a kid. And I used to go back and play that on the video when I taped it off the TV. I actually saved my best tape on Betamax. And I taped it off the TV. And one of the things I remember about it was I had a bad stomach. And Mum and Dad were going to a party at Auntie Ross's. And I think they thought I was saying, like, I don't really feel great. So they thought, oh, you want to see them watch Star Trek 2? I was about 8 or 9, I think, when it was on. And I think they thought I was milking it. And maybe I was a little bit, but I just remember I got my tape ready, and it was my best tape. And I put it in, and then I had a bad stomach upset, and I was terrified of being sick as a kid. I had this horrendous fear of it, and I tried everything not to be sick. And the film started. I thought, I'll just watch the film, and it'll put my mind off it. And it did. I was so into the movie. It just happened, and I remember I had to run into the garden. I threw up all over the wall, and I was as bad as a dog. There was no one in the house, and I was feeling really sorry for myself. And I just ended up sending myself to bed, missing the movie. And I rang my mum and dad, I think, before I went to bed. I said, look, I've been sick. You don't have to come home. I just thought I'd better tell you, in case you come in. I've made a bit of a mess in the garden. Anyway, they came in later on. The first thing my dad did was he went in and he checked the tape to see if I tape.
Priorities. There you go, son. Well done.
He came up, you'd think I'd died or something, and he came up, and I remember him, he was like feeling my head to see if I was hot, and he went, Ben, I went, yeah, it's tape, son, and it looks really good.
Love it. That's brilliant.
So, it was my best tape. And he's like, because we were both obsessed with me, Dad, about noise reduction. And if you got like a cheap tape, it would buzz.
Yeah, yeah.
It would get a hum on it like that. But it was our best L750, so it was fine. It taped it. It's okay, son. Everything's going to be all right. Star Trek 2 is fine. And I was off the next day from school, and the bonus was I could watch Star Trek 2, and it was fantastic. But yeah, the opening score is absolutely fantastic. And it just set up this whole naval feel that they sort of went for, which I had no idea. It was only introduced for this movie that they didn't do this before. They didn't, or it was only hinted at, but it was developed a lot more with the permission to come on board, and everyone's called Mr. Mr. Sally. Yeah. And it
Admiral on the bridge and all that.
Yeah, Admiral on the bridge, and it brings on this real proper seafaring swashbuckling adventure feel to it. Now, we've often talked before, and we always say that the thing with Star Trek is not Star Wars and vice versa. You're not going to get high adventure laser battles, but in this one you do. But you also get the human factor, which is why I love the Star Trek movies, especially Star Trek 2. So the opening score is beautiful, and it gets reworked several times throughout the film. And I think the best and my favourite reworking is where Kirk learns that Spock's dying.
Oh, yes.
He's asked to come to the bridge, and he looks at the chair, and Spock's chair's empty, and he's like, oh, fuck. Wait, he doesn't say that.
Yeah, he might as well. Yeah.
Remember, she does say it in an uncut version. Oh fuck! But the
Oh,
music
fuck.
starts to swell. Oh fuck!
Yeah. Oh my god! What's happening to Spock? Oh fuck!
Spock! No,
Yeah.
Spock! Spock!
Yeah,
I just remember that.
Spock.
Spock!
Spock!
I love the Shatner. He's great.
Spock! I've gone off on a tangent. Racing down to the engine room, and you get the reworking of the scene. It's fantastic. It's speeded up, but it really helps the scene.
There's a real sense of urgency about it. Like,
it really
I love
does
how, I love how it reworks the Wrath of Khan, like the main theme. But I'll stick a clip on the show now. Like, but like, yeah, there's the shot where Kirk's running to engineering, like, because all the lifts are fucked because there's like hardly any power after the battles, and that snippet there of the score as he's running to engineering, as it reworks that Wrath of Khan scene, as I said, adds that sense of urgency to it and tragedy. It's fucking brilliant score. It's really, really good.
Savik, take the con.
No! You'll flood the whole compartment.
He'll die. Sir, he's dead already.
I mean, I get goosebumps now thinking about it, but it really does give me
Yeah,
goosebumps when I watch it. You know, in real time, it's just a fantastic piece. The second piece I've chosen is called Khan's Pets, and this is again brilliant. This is where Chekhov and Terrell have been down to what I think is SETI Alpha 6 to investigate a prominent life form, because they're going to use the Genesis device to test it, and they've picked up a life form and they've been sent to investigate it. If it's barren, they're going to use the Genesis device, but they have to make sure it's completely dead. And Chekhov's discovered, or he's realised that they're actually on board the Botany Bay. What they found is Khan's ship, and we have to get out now. Oh, is this Botany Bay?
Yeah.
Oh no!
Yeah. Hurry! Yeah.
That's fantastic. Botany Bay. Botany Bay.
Oh no!
Botany Bay. Oh no! Yeah, even delivered so much better. Botany Bay. Yeah, I think he delivers it the best. Yeah, he's got it. But it's a great scene. They open obviously to try to leave, and when they go outside, they're surrounded by mysterious people in all gowned up, because it's obviously a swirling sandstorm outside, and they're obviously brought back in. They're now captured, and there's just a guy stands before them. He's obviously taking his gear off, and the music is fantastic because we know who it is. Chekhov knows, but he hasn't been revealed yet, and it's a brilliant, just the removal of his mask. And he takes off his headscarf. The music's fantastic. God, the reveal is just beautifully done. And then Khan, he speaks to him. I never forget a face, Mr. Chekhov. That's brilliant. What did he say? You. I don't know you. But he's absolutely brilliant in this, Montalban. He's really good.
Oh, he's
fantastic.
fantastic.
Music in that scene. And then we move on into that scene to where he's got his pets. I see the music's called Khan's Pets. The music at this point is still playing in the background. It's very slow, very built-in, and he reveals that SETI Alpha 5's only indigenous life form is this horrible fucking crab-like creature that's young, like little slugs, and once they've bored into your ear, you become very susceptible, and he puts them in the masks.
Oh, not all at once. And not instantly, to be sure. see, their young enter through the ears and wrap themselves around the cerebral cortex. This has the effect of rendering the victim extremely susceptible to suggestion.
The helmets of space elves are puts them on, and the music just builds and builds, just dum 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 dum, and they're both screaming as these things enter their ears, and it's so well done. And then it drops again to like quite a low tempo, very similar because it's the same guy who did it to some of the pieces in Aliens. Sorry.
Yes, I've got that in my notes. Yeah.
The scene just ends with, "Now, tell me, where can I find James Kirk?" And it's just, God, that piece of music is just fucking fantastic. And it's so well done. They've scored, I think the whole scene is scored. And again, we talked about it, you know who it's going to be because the film's called The Wrath of Khan. It was called The Wrath of the Mysterious Man. You'd have a complaint, but we know it's Khan. But his revelation is fantastically done. And the music helps that. I reckon 110%. Fantastic, because the whole scene is scored. But my absolute favourite piece, and it's such a good soundtrack, it's difficult to pick it, is called Surprise Attack. And I absolutely love it. And this is the whole concept of the whole film in the first place, is the Enterprise with Kirk and Spock is out with the training crew on the Enterprise when they're contacted by Regular One. You want to know why they want the Genesis device off them. Obviously, it's news to Kirk, so Kirk and the crew set off to Regular One and encounter the Reliant, a spaceship which is at the disposal of Regular One for the Genesis experiments. And we get this great tense scene where there's nothing wrong. There's a great line by Spock that deserves it. Duh! Where he goes, there are two explanations. They're unwilling to contact. Or they're unable to contact. Well, duh!
Yeah, cheers, Spock. Fucking hell.
Thanks, Spock. Thanks, Spock. Oh, did you go to university to learn that? Did you learn that when you were doing Pon Far? No, what was it you was doing? The Culinar. Is that what Culinar taught you? Fucking asshole. But it's a great scene. And again, music is just a very dun, 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 dun. And it starts to build gradually in the background. As obviously they don't know what's wrong. But we get this fantastic moment where the shields go up. And then the tempo just picks up incredibly quickly, and you get this sounds like anvils. I think it's just a keyboard banging, but it's brilliant. Ray Shields, and he's too slow, and the Reliant fires on them straight away, and that's it. They're absolutely crippled. So you get this fantastic swell of music as the laser attacks, the torpedoes start bursting into the side of the Enterprise. Enterprise, obviously, it's really stricken, and then just drops down very quickly to nothing. And then the reveal on the screen is Khan, and that piece of music is absolutely fantastic. The whole scene, for me, is probably the best in the film. I absolutely love it. And the music, again, just helps it 100%. Without music, it wouldn't be as tense as it is. Again, we know it's Khan. We know Khan is the aggressor, and he's got control of the Reliant. But it's still a really tense scene. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Like Kirk, Kirk and the Enterprise don't know who's on the Reliant and why they're firing on them. And yeah, that is probably the best piece of score in the movie, where the Reliant attacks the Enterprise. And it is, I love how the score ends when Khan reveals himself on the view screen, and now the score just sort of gently fades away. And it's Kirk who realizes, that it's Khan. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's a fantastic score, and I just love. Just going back to the Wrath of Khan theme, the original Wrath of Khan theme, it's. I love how it uses it does use sort of the opening of the Star Trek series, the original part from the Star Trek series, but then it goes into its own thing.
Yeah,
I think it's equally good as Jerry Goldsmith's theme for Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which is now more synonymous with Star Trek: The Next Generation, because that's what they used for the TV series for Next Generation. But it's been reused quite a few times in the Trek canon. So I remember, I used to get it was in the early 90s where CIC Video would release Star Trek The Next Generation on VHS. You get 2 episodes per tape. It's an expensive way to collect a season. It's like 14, I think it's like 13 or 14 pounds for each tape. And this was like back in fucking early 90s. But I remember there was a spate on sort of a spate of releases for Next Gen. I think it might have been the 30th anniversary of Trek, I think. So it would have been 1996. So it was the 30th anniversary of Trek. And they did they put this like big promo together at the start of the tape, which would basically it was promoting Trek's 30th anniversary. It was promoting Deep Space Nine, which was about to launch. But the whole score under that whole promo is the Wrath of Khan opening theme, and it just works so well. It's just a brilliant. It's such a brilliant theme. It's so good. And it works really well on this sort of Trek promo. I'll see if I can find it on YouTube and stick a link to it on our socials so people can see it. But then also as well, it's used in the Star Trek V trailer. They used the Wrath of Khan theme and score in the Star Trek V trailer, and it works really well in the Star Trek V trailer. And we know what a pile of steaming shit Star Trek V is, but the trailer is brilliant, and it's all down to James Horner's score being used in the trailer. It's fantastic. And one thing I noticed is that after you get the swell of the opening score, the opening theme, there is no music in the film then for a good sort of 10-15 minutes. So you've got like the Kobayashi Maru training sequence with Savick at the start, and then it cuts to the Reliant around SETI Alpha 5. But you don't see any, you don't hear any music, any score until you get to what you talked about with Khan's pets, or the big reveal of Khan when he's taking his mask off. Yeah. That's the next bit of score. So the score is used sparingly, but when it's used, it's incredible. It's like I mean, you've pretty much covered most of my favorite parts of the score, but I really like Spock's theme. He kind of has his own theme, and it first plays where Kirk goes to see Spock to basically say that we've been ordered to the laboratory at Regular One to investigate what's going on. And Spock immediately says, well, procedure dictates that you're the most senior officer, so you should, take command of the ship. And it's obvious that Kirk wants it. He desperately wants to be in charge of the ship, but he was like, no, it's okay. It may be nothing, so you should stay in command of the ship. And Spock's like, Jim, you are assuming I have an ego to bruise, and I don't. I'm kind of paraphrasing. That's not exactly what he says.
Spock, these cadets of yours, how good are they? How will they respond under real pressure?
As with all living things, each according to his gifts. Of course, the ship is yours.
No, that won't be necessary. Just get me to Regular One.
As a teacher on a training mission, I am content to command the Enterprise. If we are to go on actual duty, it is clear that the senior officer on board must assume command.
It may be nothing. Garbled communications. You take the ship.
Jim, you proceed from a false assumption. I am a Vulcan. I have no ego to bruise.
But underneath that, it's a lovely scene between Kirk and Spock. And underneath that is sort of Spock's own theme, which again is weaved into the death scene at the end, where it sort of it takes elements from the Wrath of Khan theme, but it also weaves in this new theme for Spock, which James Horner wrote for the character. And I think that's absolutely... It's great, and that scene is a fucking gut punch anyway at the end where Spock sort of dies. But I love how Horner works those motifs into that at the end. It's a really nice piece of score and a really nice piece of music. It's really, really good. And I've got on my notes as well. There's a lot of stuff here that sounds familiar now because of Aliens, even though this was like 4 years before Aliens. But Horner does repeat himself a little bit with some of his musical cues. Not exactly, but some of the score sounds really familiar. Like when the just after Khan's activated the Genesis device, and the Enterprise basically starts to reverse away from the Reliant, there's one specific piece of music which sounds exactly like something from Aliens. It's I think it might be the Bishop's countdown cue from the Aliens soundtrack. There's just one snippet which is exactly the same, but you're going to get that, you know. And that's one thing I've noticed with Horner is that his score for Cocoon is brilliant, and there's parts of the Star Trek II score which reminded me of that. Some of the score from Cocoon. I mean, I love Cocoon, and I think I'd love to cover that in the show separately. Maybe he's part of the science fiction kitchen. Maybe we should have a look at Cocoon, because again, that's another Ron Howard film which I think is overlooked. But James Horner's score for Cocoon is fantastic. I think James Horner was completely. I think he was underrated, to be honest. I mean, he's no longer with us now. He's passed on, unfortunately. But I don't think people seem to look at Horner with the same reverence that they do for, say, like John Williams as an example, which I think is slightly unfair, because I think Horner's did some great work. And considering he wrote the score for Aliens in about 3 weeks, I think, because he wasn't the original choice to write the score, and he was drafted in by Cameron as last minute. And it was something ridiculous, like 2 months before the film was due to be released or something like that, that he had to crank out the score for Aliens. And Aliens is a great score. And there are parts... there's a bit of the score when in Star Trek II when Kirk, Bones, and Savick beam down to the Regular One laboratory, and it's deserted and it's empty and it's real eerie. And the scene where Bones finds some of the crew sort of hung upside down, dead, it's really eerie and frightening, and it's really effective. And the score that Horner uses there is really effective. And it reminded me a little bit of some of the score from Aliens, where the Colonial Marines are investigating the abandoned complex on LV-426. So there is a bit of repetition there, but still, it doesn't take away from how effective his work is on Wrath of Khan. I think it's an amazing score, and I absolutely love it. And I know we've talked about it in previous shows, but that whole last sequence where they do activate, you know, where Khan activates the Genesis machine and the Enterprise is desperately trying to get away, that whole score is amazing, you know, where, you know, Kirk says, "Scotty, we need warp power in 3 minutes or we're all dead." It just really builds up the tension. And there's that little bit where Sulu says, "We're not going to make it, are we?"
Time.
3 minutes, 30 seconds.
Distance from Reliant.
4,000 kilometers.
We're not going to make it, are we?
No, you can't get away. From hell's heart, I stab at thee. For hate's sake, I spit my last breath at thee.
Sir, the mains are back online.
Yes, Scotty. Go, Zulu!
And sort of Kirk glances to David, who just quietly sort of shakes his head as if to confirm it. But that whole score in that scene gives me goosebumps just talking about it. I know it's difficult. We're on a podcast. It's not like we're going to start singing it down the microphone to try and convey what we're trying to talk about. But it's just a fantastic score, and I think Horner's really his work needs to be reevaluated. I think, because he's done some absolutely fantastic stuff.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think he went from this to Krull, which is a terrible film, but it's got a great soundtrack. I think I remember texting you years ago when I was watching it. I said, "I'm watching Krull, but it just makes me want to watch Star Trek 2 because it was almost the same scores, almost identical." And I think Star Trek 2 really opened the gates for him into like mainstream movies, and so he was like flooded with work, which, you know, any composer can do it. Some of John Williams' scores are quite sound alike, you know, and it can't be helped because, you know, you're only one guy, you know, so it's just, it's difficult. There are bits and pieces of John Williams in scores in other movies, so it's not something that can be avoided. But I've never actually sat and thought that with Aliens. I've never even compared it to Star Trek 2. I think maybe it's just your mindset where you just don't really think about it. But thinking about it now, yeah, of course, the beaming down to regular one, which is it's got my favourite line in where are we going? Where they went? What if they went nowhere? Well, this is your big chance to get away from it all. It's just absolutely fucking fantastic.
Yeah, it's
I never actually put two and two together and thought, God, that does sound like it. But it does sound like Aliens, isn't it? But yeah, so what? It's a different film, and it evokes a different sort of sense of terror. The thing with Star Trek 2 is, I think overall, I think it's the best produced for me Star Trek movie in the series. I think from start to finish, it's fantastic. The action is brilliant. The acting is brilliant. It's just a great story. It is a really genuinely perilous story because Khan is such a fucking badass that it is a shame that there was no hand-to-hand combat. I mean, the hand-to-hand combat in the Space Seed episode is hilarious because it is not William Shatner or Ricardo Montalban fighting.
A blatant stunt double, yeah.
They've never shared screen time. But it's such a great production, and I just remember reading it about when he reduced Harv Bennett to the head of Fox. I was at Paramount, to make Star Trek 2, and he said, "Do you think you could make it? Yeah. Do you think, could you make it cheaper than $40 million? Because I think that's how much it costs to make Start in Motion Pictures. He said, I can make 5 films for $40 million. But they just had this terrible problem with Gene Roddenberry, who kept coming up with these concepts, and he had final say and everything. And once they got rid of him, it sounds ridiculous, isn't it? It's like George Lucas sometimes. The creator sometimes is the biggest hindrance, and once you get rid of it,
definitely
you take it in a different direction, and it just works so well. And to me, it just kicks off. The film kicks off brilliantly because of the score. It is absolutely fantastic, and I think again, it's a shame with the Star Trek series that they sort of didn't reuse the score much. They kept using different scores in different movies. I think it sort of hinders it a little bit because this is just awesome. But then again, it's a shame because Goldsmith's score would have really suited Star Trek 2 because it's more action orientated and upbeat. And it's a shame. It's really Hobson's choice. It's a fantastic headache to have had. Really, now that this fantastic score by James Horner, I would reuse a fantastic score by Jerry Goldsmith. But yeah, overall, fantastic. I absolutely love it. And it's one of those things where you take that score out of the movie, it's going to lose maybe 50% of its impact because it's so integral. And he was a genius, the guy. And to be aged 28 and to come up with this is fantastic. And it's you're right, he doesn't get the recognition he deserves, but he will now, thanks to us.
He will, that's right. Thanks to us, he will be reevaluated because we're awesome. So there we go. So